Okay. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ashish Pratik, and I am a third year CSE student. With us today is Mr. Balajiganapathi, a graduate of IIT Bombay and the creator of the very successful coding platform Codrils. He's currently working as a software engineer at Google and was one of the world finalists at the ICPC contest.
Hello everyone, I'm Deeksha, second year mechanical branch. Hello Balaji. We are honored to have you with us today, Mr. Balaji, and we can't wait to gain some knowledge and insight into competitive programming from someone as accomplished as you. I'm gonna start with if so. Moving on to the first question, what are the benefits of competitive programming?
Sure. Thanks, Ashish and Diksha, for the introduction. Yeah, so what are the benefits of competitive programming, right? So the first thing I always feel like sometimes people miss it because competitive programming has gained a lot of attention nowadays because of its use in job, is that competitive programming is primarily about fun. That's what I always feel, like having fun with just coding and solving a tough problem. So that's what I mean, that's kind of the main benefit of competitive programming. I always feel that and it also is like a good kind of exercise in logic and computational thinking, right? So we all learn a lot of so most of the stuff we learn in college computer science is all mostly theoretical. A channel to apply those theoretical stuff into something practical, at least somewhat bit more practical than just theory. So that I feel is like the first benefit of competitive programming. And of course, like over the last few years, almost like any software company that you want to go, or any software company always asks, there are always algorithm rounds, right? Algo and DS rounds. So competitive programming is also helps there. And so yeah, those are the benefits. And one thing is that while I mean, if you're doing good in competitive programming or anything, you can it can be one of the main things that you do. But apart from that, mostly it's like just make sure that you are having fun, like you are not just grinding it for interviews and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Is CP really required for getting a job or internship? Is it like really important for that?
Yeah, so how I would look at it is that is competitive programming as it is there currently, is it required for job and interview? It's a bit tricky to answer. First, I would answer it in two ways. First is, strictly speaking, no. It's because competitive programming is more than just the interview algorithm and DS questions that are asked. So theoretically, even if you are not doing or not into competitive programming, you can still pass those interviews by practicing only those interview questions and focusing on algorithms and data structures, right? So I would say, like, technically speaking, no, competitive programming is not strictly required. That's why I stressed in my first question that make sure that you have fun. Like, if you find you are not having fun in that, that's fine. And then we can just practice. You can just practice like interview questions so that you are doing good. So basically, what I trying to say is that in all these companies and all these interviews, the type of questions are asked are slightly different from what you see in a typical competitive programming contest. So that's an important distinction to make. If you are good at competitive programming, yes, you will find those interview questions easy, but the converse is not necessarily true. Someone might not be that good at competitive programming because maybe they are interested in ML, or maybe they are interested in doing their own projects, and that's fine. And they can still have a good chance at these interviews by practicing all the interview type questions, right? And yeah, like apart from that, like one more I would say important benefit of competitive programming is that it gains a level of familiarity with your whatever language you are using, programming language, as well as it really improves the logical thinking part. Like uh, how we usually approach any competitive programming problem is that we read the problem statement and we think about it and transform it. Usually we use some transformation to transform it into something we already know, and maybe apply it with some modification, any of the standard algorithms that we already know. And then there is the implementation part where you have to break it down into functions, and also there is thinking about like what kind of test cases are possible under the given constraint. So a lot of these do help. I mean, a lot of these are very useful to have if you are planning a career in software development. So uh, yeah, those are also, from that point of view, also I would say competitive programming is beneficial for uh, doing well in or getting a job or an internship.
Okay, sir, thank you for that insightful advice and knowledge. So let's move on to the next question. The next question is competitive programming a necessity for a web developer profile to be specific for a front-end developer?
So for front-end developer, nowadays, like at least in the bigger companies, bigger software companies, there is no specific uh, interview path for between front end or back end. So the idea why the big companies usually prefer just asking algo question is that generally technologies. So otherwise, think of how the interviews would be. It will be anyone who has done or know a particular language or a framework would have an advantage if they ask something very related to front end or back end. That's why they ask general logical questions to test how the candidate is doing in the generic programming thinking, computational thinking, and whether they are able to make progress in solving a tough problem and all that. So in general, for bigger companies, they either front end or back end, the type of questions asked are the same. Only after selection is like the job itself would be different, but yeah, same. Having said that, there are some many companies also which don't follow this standard pattern. They might ask directly project or something directly related to front end. In fact, like when I believe like when Codrills was hiring for front end intern, so they just asked like for a project and selected based on that. So yeah, there are like a lot of companies which does that too. So it's like you will have to search for it a bit, but yeah, big companies definitely ask the same type of questions irrespective of front end or back end.
Okay, sir, thank you for the knowledge. Yeah, so the next question is, can one get through an interview just by being good at competitive programming and having not much experience in the development field of it?
Uh, yes, so it is true for the fresher level interviews, definitely. So usually for fresher level, say if there are 4 rounds, then at least 3 of them would probably be algorithmic and DS, and one round maybe some CS like database or network level thing, or just general based on resume and like what if we have done any project, then based on that. So that's usually the structure of most of the interviews. So for fresher, it's definitely true. Like almost solely competitive, doing well at competitive programming or interview questions would get you through the 3/4 of the interview, right? Very easily. And but yeah, so there are some. I mean, in some companies they only have these three, but most companies have at least like one extra non-algo round. But that should also be like easy. Like most of still you see that the majority is DS algo. And apart from there is one more thing. Most companies, even before they select a candidate for interview, they have these online tests or online assessments. And I have seen that most of these are definitely interview algo questions, and very less have like some non-algo question, a project or something. So in many cases, even getting to that interviewing part requires being good at solving these algorithm questions. And nowadays, like it's getting quite, the level of algorithm questions asked in these assessment tests are like just keep increasing. So yeah, I would definitely say that doing well at competitive programming would be more than enough for most of the companies out there.
Okay, so being good at CP does helps a lot. So any courses or books or just material in general that you would recommend for competitive programming?
Uh, so I don't really have any course or any particular thing in general. I just just search around for like anything that I want to learn. Uh, so yeah, I don't have any specific thing. I did like try to read CLRS, but yeah, I never moved past the first, I guess, few chapters. So while does that help, even the first few chapters are like good in having a framework for thinking about algorithms and everything. But yeah, most of the time, at least what how I prefer to learn is just practicing and trying out a new thing, maybe just implementing something or finding a problem for a, so say uh, I like give an example, say I want to learn a graph algo, say I want to learn Jigstraws. I would probably just first Google about Jigstraws and maybe go to the Wikipedia page, learn about how it works, and try to find a problem that uses it, a competitive coding problem, and implement whatever I learned there from that. So that's how I prefer to learn. So I don't have one particular set of course or book to recommend. And even if I did, like I started learning a long time ago, so maybe like there are better sources now. So
Okay, so yeah, googling it does helps. So how helpful are contests for practicing CP? Should I spend more time in contests or the main problems that are present on basic CP sites?
yeah, it's a good question. So the like the options here are like either participate in as much contest as possible across various competitive sites, or just go to any one of them and start solving all the problems offline, irrespective of waiting for a contest or anything. I would say like from my personal experience, I always like to participate in contest more than solving a practice question. With the important difference being that when I'm just learning a new algo or something, then I like obviously like if you are learning a new algo, you won't want to wait till that question is asked in a contest, so you would try to find it offline. But apart from that, for general practice, I would definitely recommend participating in contests, and with a few caveats. So first is that once you participate in a contest, what you do after that is important. It's not like you keep participating in contest after contest, then you would improve till a certain level, but not after that. So the important thing is what you do after you finish a contest. So what you should definitely at least do is pick up the hardest problem that you could not sorry, the easiest problem that you could not solve. So if you are able to solve the first two problem, then pick up the third problem and try to thoroughly learn it, and like why, what you missed, or is it due to some time, so you took long time solving first two, or maybe some it uses some new algorithm, or maybe you missed some edge case there, and make sure that you solve that actually. So this practice is called upsolving. So after a contest, you upsolve those problems you couldn't solve. And this is important because otherwise it would be difficult to improve just by uh, participating. It's not enough to improve, but this is very important. And the second thing where non solving problems outside of a contest is helpful is before like a big contest or a placement season maybe. So before all this, like even just solving in contest may not be enough. While you would still do that, but just may not be enough. So we need to solve. We need to get much more practice in before a big event, say like Icpc or maybe like placement season, like I said. So during those time also, like I would definitely recommend solving a lot of problems outside of it.
Okay, so yeah, it is helpful practicing contests. So moving on to the next question, So many people they master data structures, algorithms, and computative programming, and focus most of their time on solving algorithmic problems. But like, let's say, like after they get a job at Google, they face issues as they're not very good at the development and adjusting to that lifestyle. So can we just hear your comments on this view?
Yeah, so as I said in some of my answers to the past question, like the main reason why companies ask for such interview algo questions is to make sure that the general level, like general logic and all, is up to the mark. So the company, once you get into a company, it's a different game altogether. So you will have to like learn whatever technology they use and make sure that eventually you become an expert in that. But in all this, definitely having a strong competitive programming profile does help. And that does not mean that having a non-development, I mean, having development experience does not help. So it's like I would ideally recommend, like even if you are doing competitive programming a lot, you also like do some projects or explore basically, right? It's not like I won't even say like do project, just explore around it, like what are all the things that are going on in computer science. Maybe pick up a random new programming language or a new framework and play around with it. So that kind of thing always helps, because when you join a company, you would everything would be new there, right? Maybe you have not used that language, maybe you have not used that framework. So that process of how to learn and how to ramp up, it's called ramping up, that term. So how to ramp up on a new code base or ramp up on a new framework is very important to practice. So, and that would definitely that's partly uh, like partly useful to have like competitive coding and all those practice also. But apart from that also, you should definitely explore these things. So the answer would be like a mix of both is important, but still like there's still like enough time to pick that up. Like even if you don't have any experience, I wouldn't really worry about it. Just make sure that when you join a company, like you take enough time to develop all those skills.
So thank you. Thank you for that knowledge. So yeah, so the next question is, so can someone from a core branch get into Google? And if yes, how would you suggest to prepare for it?
So from my experience, like most of the bigger companies don't really have this thing that only CS students can appear. But so definitely it's not like a requirement as such. And in fact, like for me, like even though my master's was in computer science, my bachelor's was not in CS. And I did like get an internship at a software company when I was doing bachelor's. So it's definitely like possible. In that case, definitely you should also like, besides being so generally the only place where this comes up is when selecting the resume, right? And but if they are allowing CS, then I mean they are allowing non-CS candidates, then it's not that much of issue. So the process will be same for everyone. It's not like they will ask different question for non-CS candidate or anything. So everything will be same. Only advised for CS candidates also apply for that. Only thing is uh, maybe there might, so not all companies unfortunately do this. It's not like not all companies would have done this. So that is something to be kept in mind. So you may have to target certain companies. Mostly bigger international companies definitely allow non-CS folks. The thing I would do is like keep practicing on the side, and also like do projects, and also brush up on the theoretical knowledge, right? So that you would be missing up. Mostly CS folks would naturally get exposure to all the theoretical CS stuff via their courses, but non-CS folks may have some difficulty with it. So they would have to make sure they get that exposure to basic CS stuff, and that's easily possible nowadays. Like online, everything, there are lots of courses available for that. And
Thank you so much. This will really help me and my friends in core branches, I guess. So, moving on to the next question. Does having a good rating on platforms like Codeforces help? can I mention that on my resume, and does it help to make my resume stand out?
It's a bit of a tricky question. So one counter question would be like, what do you think would be a good rating, right? It's like a very vague term, good rating. And so like if you're definitely like some, say, top coder from India or something, then definitely add it, obviously. Or if we have some an achievement in a very big contest, like say you got qualified for world finals or of ICPC and all those things, definitely add it. And apart from that, while yeah, it's still good to mention a rating, but uh, think about it this way, like from point of view of company, right? Everyone would be mentioning the rating. So the term good rating is like very vague, and unless like and also it's not necessary that all the, say, whoever is looking through a resume necessarily knows what, say, a rating of 2000 at in a site necessarily means. So even if you mention it in your resume, make sure that it's understandable to someone who is not familiar with what the rating is. uh, so uh, so some ways of doing this are like mentioning some percentile, or even if you say mention your rank X in a context, then always mention like how many people have participated. So right, so if I say I ranked 100 in a contest with 1 million people, that's definitely a very big achievement. But if I say rank 100 with 500 people, then that's okay. But without that frame of reference, someone who is looking at your resume won't know that. So uh, one thing would be like always make sure when you're writing these things in your resume to think from point of view of someone who won't have as much knowledge of competitive coding or ratings as you. And yeah, to answer the question, you can and probably you should mention it in the resume. I mean, it won't cause any harm. But from the point of view of making it stand out, I'm not sure. Like, I also like don't know what they would consider, what someone would consider a good rating nowadays, and it keeps changing, right? So it's difficult to say whether that would make you stand out. And that's why, like, besides rating or ranking, if there are some other achievement, like top 3, top 5, whatever, do make sure to mention that. So that would like be different, right? And it's not just a number or something. So it will be more understandable.
Okay, thank you for your knowledge on this. So that was about CP. Now talking about your startup Codress, uh, which is a coding platform and which I personally like, and a lot of contests are conducted on it from our college as well. So how did you get inspiration to start Codress, and how does it help for CP or getting a job in journal?
Yeah, sure. So the inspiration for Codels originally around 5 to 6 years back, I believe. I and Deepa had written this uh, simple tool called Codels, and that was actually different function than what the test today. So what it did was analyze. So you would enter all your handles in Codeforces and CodeChef maybe, and it will analyze all the problems that you have solved, and it will recommend some new problems to solve. So the idea behind this was at that point, like say when I logged in to solve some practice for competitive coding, I wouldn't know what problem to solve next, because at that point, Codeforces, CodeChef, everyone started having thousands of problems. So like what exactly should I solve next? So the idea behind Coderails was that that decision should be taken, because many times I would just sit and not really know what to solve and then start browsing something and just not practice. So uh, the primary motivation was that, and later we saw that I mean algorithms were, so it was like moderately successful at that time itself, and many people are even now regularly using that old tool. And so what we did was now after some years, like when we were practicing for interviews, we saw that nowadays like even interview problems are in runs in thousands. So we face the same issue again. So one of the primary motivation was applying the same kind of technique that worked in competitive programming to interview, also interview practicing. So that's how we started Codrills. And of course, like since we come from a competitive program background, we always plan to have competitive contest also there. So yeah, basically like both competitive programming and interview practice we wanted to have. So that was our main motivation. And even now, like if you are not sure like what interview question to solve next, you can just log on to Codels and it will show all the whatever the next 5 you should focus. And how it does is it analyzes all. So initially, of course, it would show some fixed problems maybe, but once you solve a few problems, it will analyze what areas that you are strong in. So the idea behind all this is that if you want to practice DP versus say someone who is really expert in dynamic programming wants to solve some problem there, then both the problems that they should solve would be different, right? So if a beginner is solving, then they should be solving something more simpler, while someone and very expert should be able to solve something much more harder. So the idea behind is to, and it's all personal, right? So maybe like in even rating won't answer that. So maybe you are very good at DP, but you are not that good at graph. Then it should suggest you simpler problems in graph and harder problems in DP. So that's what this is about. So in each area, it will analyze like which areas are strong, and we can prepare kind of what to solve next so that you will improve in overall. That's the idea. And yeah, we also like this is just for offline practice, but we also hold like regular contests, and I think like NITK is also holding regular weekly contests there for in preparation for Christmas season. So yeah, practicing in that would also simulate a kind of interview. So even in interview, you get one hour and you have to solve maybe 2 medium and hard problems in there. So practicing this regularly under time constraint is very important, because many times I have people say to me like they're able to solve a problem when there is no pressure, no time pressure. But when it's under interview pressure, they kind of sleep, or because we have to solve it quickly. So practicing under these time constraints always helps.
Thank you, sir. So everyone, do check out Codrills. It is a very good platform to enhance your coding skills. So the next question that we have is, so can you just give us a glimpse of the work that you do at Google?
Yeah, sure. So I would like speak in general like how things work at bigger companies, right? And I mean that's I guess the gist of the question, like how software developer actually works compared to competitive programming or something. So mostly I would say I would divide that question into 2 parts. One is like what you might expect when you just join a company, say within first 2 or 3 years, because once you cross those 3 years and become a more senior developer, then the job kind of changes a lot. So it's almost like a different job, I would say. So the first few years, you would generally be mostly your task that you'd work on, it would kind of already be, you know, already be scoped out. Like someone would have worked on it and they would know like this is your task and this is what you have to code. And so you most of the time your main skill that you would be developing is how to implement something. So what if a task is already decided, how would you implement it? How would you make sure it's well tested? How so how would you make sure it's optimized and so on? So those would be, and the skills that are required to do good at this level would be good language skill, and so you would be want to ramp up on whatever programming language is being used and whatever framework that is being used, and making sure that you are able to use them well. Debugging skill is also really important, and I feel that's something which people who have done competitive programming a lot always helps there, because like I mean most of the time even in competitive programming it's debugging only, right? Which case is failing, what is failing. So yeah, so this would be a typical so a typical day for first 3 years would be something like there is a task and you know what to do in it. You would probably check out like how to do that task in the particular language and framework that you are working, and after that writing test for that and making sure that it's uh, complete and all the code and everything is submitted within time. So that would be the work of a typical fresher. And once you get to a few levels, like after 3 or 4 years maybe, the kind of responsibilities change a bit. So it's not just about coding a particular task. Now you also have to come up with those tasks. So Now the statement would not be say connect to a database and run this query and get the response. So it will be more like this is what the feature that is required. So you decide how to do. You design the database. You design the query. How would you do that? So that's like a kind of entirely different set of responsibilities, I would say. So you would have to connect with different folks and maybe customer or maybe product manager, who whatever you have, and make sure that first of all the feature and what are all the specifications are correct, and kind of decide on that, and then actually convert it into whatever your technical level work it is there. So these are all, that's how like a typical say my typical day would be something like that. I still do obviously like coding is still a major part of it, maybe 50-60%, but 40-50% around would be all these non-coding tasks in making sure the project is getting done on time, all these things. So that's how a typical day would work.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience at Google. So let's move on to the next question. So the next question is projects versus competitive programming, which is more important?
I would say like you should definitely have time to do both. I mean, so I would never say that do only project or do only competitive programming. So I would say the reason why I would not say that. So I know it's a bit of circular reasoning, but it would be helpful. So I would never say that don't do projects and only do competitive programming, because maybe like someone doesn't have that much fun doing competitive programming, then it's better to always like explore other things. And as I told, like exploring these stuff and making sure that I mean keeping things interesting is also very important. So I should definitely try to do projects or anything, anything that, and projects can be anything, right? It can just be a simple script, or to do something that you find that you frequently do, maybe a Chrome extension, something, anything, any project that you would use immediately. That's what I would recommend starting with. No, it's not necessarily that a project means you would be hosting a site and going on cloud. If that's what you're interested in, sure, but don't think that project has to be big. It can be something as simple as writing a few lines of Python script to do something that you do. And I would also say, I would never say that don't do competitive programming and only do projects. That's because the situation, I mean, the things how the things did nowadays is that every interview process always has some algo question. So competitive programming will definitely help in that. So I would say, I won't say like which is important because I feel like both are important. And if one of them is like you feel like you are really having fun doing a particular project in some framework or something, then yeah, definitely do more of it and just less of the other thing. And same, like if you have a really enjoy solving problems in sites, competitive programming, and participating in contests, then do more of competitive programming and maybe less of projects. But yeah, in general, my advice would be to do both.
Thank you, sir. So, moving on to the next question. Uh, how does one start and keep up the motivation to continue competitive programming as the competition grows with each level?
Uh, so if I understand the question correctly, it's that it's more like about how to keep improving. Even like say if you move from green to blue, then obviously the level required to improve more would be the level would be higher, and the amount of work required to move to the next level would be higher. So I'm assuming it's about that. So first of all, it's that anybody can improve. It's not like I don't believe that people have a ceiling or anything. It's just like how much effort are you willing to put in, and how much like focus are you able to give there. So that's what we do. And that's why I always keep saying that fun is important, because only if you're having fun solving the problems would you be able to focus there or do that for a longer time. Otherwise it's like very difficult to do that. So as for improvement itself, I would say like keep solving problems that are just above your levels. So always have that thing. So if you are just starting or just try to solve a few simple problems, as you keep improving, keep trying to solve harder and harder problems. And that's also uh, like that's actually one that was, as I said, like one of the motivations for Codrich. And yeah, that's what I would that is my advice on general approach to practicing and improving also. So I strongly believe that you should always keep trying to solve problems that is just beyond your level. And that's why, like, if you see all the advices that are given on practicing are structured around it. So up solving after a contest, it's because like you are not solved a particular problem, so you take the easiest problem that you could not solve, and that's by definition like just above your level, because you are able to solve all the easier problems but you couldn't solve it. And same for like codels, it will just unless each of your field and just give you problems just beyond your level. So that's, I feel, if you keep doing that, you will always keep improving till you want, basically. It then depends on how much time you are wishing to allocate for this.
Okay, sir. So, all of you guys who are watching the stream, if you have any questions for Mr. Balaji, you can just put it up in the chat box, and we will take those questions up. So, sir, meanwhile, we have another question. So, uh, so, what is your advice for a college student who wants to participate in ICPC?
Yeah, so for ICPC, there are first of all a few things. One is that individually, all the things that I have told so far and all the things that you apply, that will always apply. So individually, always try to improve that. But one aspect that I find always missing in many of these ICPC advice is the team part of it. So remember that ICPC is a team contest, and there are 3 people in that, and so always like try to practice as much as possible with your team. So the reason is that I've seen many times like people practice individually, and when they finally practice as a team, they have like trouble how to communicate efficiently and how to collaborate on a problem. So all those things are very important. So I would say that for ICPC specifically, as much as possible, participate as a team, and keep in mind that mostly how it would work is uh, like maybe one of you is very good at maths, like they can just come up with all the combinatorics formula in like very quickly, while one of you might struggle with it, but they might be very good at graph problems. So as you practice together, you will notice these patterns, and in contest you would just like, okay, this is a graph problem, you solve, and so on like that. So all those things are very important, and they come only via practice. So you can't expect like if you are not practiced together that much, you would automatically know all these little things. So it's very important to practice together. And one more thing I would say is have a plan, like what to do during a contest. Don't just start a contest and then figure out as you go. So while that is also possible, and maybe like if everyone in the team is very high level, then they might still do better, but it's always better to have a plan so that it's efficient. So what I mean by plan, uh, mostly like who will be solving the easiest problem. So easiest problem, I would expect like any person in the team would be able to solve, but it's always good to have a particular person solve it. Or another strategy might be like whoever finds the easiest problem will immediately solve it. So whatever the strategy is, it always helps to be explicit about it. So always discuss it beforehand and practice, make a few participate in practice contests, and try to execute these plans and see how it works out, maybe modify this and so on. And also have plans for like what would you do if you get stuck on a problem. So if one individual gets stuck on a problem, should uh, like should they take immediately help of someone other teammate, or maybe it might be more beneficial to have everyone parallelly work on it. And there's also, of course, like these are all static plans, and it will all change like when you see dynamically in the contest that your rank is going down suddenly and you have to somehow solve it. So basically go through all these scenarios and try to think of what you would do, so that during a contest the focus should be on solving these problems and not on figuring what to do and which problem to solve and so on. So I would definitely recommend all these things.
Thank you so much for your advice. So, one more question. One tip that you would like to give for second years and third years who will apply for internships and placement in the upcoming few months?
Yeah, so for internships and placements, I would say that definitely try to start preparing as soon as possible. In general, like as early as possible. Whoever starts preparing earliest generally has a significant advantage in clearing all the interviews. And all these things also, the reason, another reason is that all these things take time to learn, right? You can't become an expert in all the algorithms in a month. I mean, uh, yeah. So it always takes time to learn anything new and to apply it and make sure that you become an expert in it. So make sure you allocate enough time to practice and maybe like have a schedule daily, 1 or 2 hours, whatever works for you, and that much time you would spend coding and like apart from all the coursework. And I know that it might get difficult around exams or around course and due to situation right now, but still like try to is be regular in practice, and that always helps. uh, as far as the other things go, I think like I already answered like a resume, how to build those, and make sure like only thing I'd say like make sure to uh, plan for all this. What I mean is like don't just say skip planning how your resume would look or how you would prepare it until the last minute. Like that's what we usually do in say assignments or so, right? We just start working on the last day. But for all this resume and stuff, I would definitely try to do it early and maybe get feedback from others what works and what doesn't work, so that there's enough iteration so that it's polished, right? So if you look at it from the point of view of recruiters, even though you might argue that it shouldn't matter, all these things like still matter, like how you present your resume, what all stuff you put, and also if you do it last minute, you may miss some important stuff. So it's always good to do a few iterations of resume of practicing for interviews. So one good thing is for try to have mock interviews either via coding contest where you just sit for those 1 hour and try to solve as if in an interview, or maybe like have a friend ask you a question and try to solve it through and see how like you work when there's an interviewer present, right? So make sure all these situations are not new. It should not be like the first time you're talking to someone about a programming is during an interview, then it might be difficult, you might miss something. So make sure to practice through all these situations.
So, thank you, sir, for that. And now we have like another question in the chat. As there is only about 10-15 days left for the ICPC, so the question is, what topic should be more focused on?
uh, so see, I won't say what topics to focus on because like I'm also setting the questions. So in general, like so in 10-15 days, if you mean for ICPC Amritapuri, then it's a qualification round, right? So uh, generally, if you can like see how past qualification rounds are, what level of difficulty it is, and practice based on that, right? So usually for qualification round, the topics don't really matter. Because the difficulty level usually is not as high as in a regional. So even if 10-15 days, it's fine. Just get in as many practice as possible, and remember all the advice that I gave for team practice. It's still a team contest. So as long as like you practice together, and I'm sure that even 10-15 days is enough.
Uh, Thank Thank you, sir, for that advice. I'm sure we all have learned a lot more. This is one last question. Are there any topics that come in interviews but not in competitive programming?
Yes, so there are some topics which frequently come in interview, but maybe not in competitive programming. So one example that comes off the top of my mind is linked list questions. So those generally don't come in competitive coding, but are very popular in interview. Same for things like binary trees and all those things which require like a data structure as an input many times. So these don't appear in competitive coding. I mean, they appear, but not like directly as they do in interview. So there are definitely things. And another example would be, say, cache. So cache implementation is like a favorite of many interviewers. Like they will ask you to include LRU, whatever MRU, whatever is what are like what are all the types of cache, whatever that. So those generally don't come up in competitive coding generally, but for interview they are like quite useful to know. Same for things like rate limiter or yeah, these are all like things I can think of top of the mind. I'm sure like there are more.
Yeah. So thank you, sir, for answering all our questions. And yeah, I'm sure we all learned a lot from uh, your experience. Yeah. Uh,
Thanks,
yeah.
Ashish.
So
Thanks, Diksha.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Balaji. So, on the behalf of all the IET members, I would like to thank you for giving us insight into CP and having such an amazing interaction with us. So, we'll always remember your words. So, thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.